What's up, everybody? Today I have some tips for you on costumes in Dekaron. This video suggestion came from Krenith1941. It said, bro, can you give us some tips on what costumes are good and cheap? Thanks. Now, TRBN420 had a pretty good response to this, actually, saying, yes, please. But he knows Crest costumes already in another video, but are there still some costumes with static stats like the golden helmet? So yeah, we're going to cover that in this video. It might not be an answer that you're going to love, but we will definitely cover it. Now, again, if you want to see your suggestion in the future, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment. If it gets the most likes, that'll be the next video that I work on. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure to like the video. These things help me out and, keep me going with these videos for the future. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. Cheap costumes. Let's talk about cheap costumes. Now, I am going to end up talking about Crest costumes eventually because that is the direction the game has gone. However, I will briefly talk about costumes with static stats. Yes, the golden helmet is one of those. Now, how do you get the golden helmet costume? The golden helmet costume comes from farming these little golden helmet pieces. They are just a rare drop that you can get on, I think, pretty much any map. You need 10 of them, and then you can go to NPC Sinnin, and you can exchange them for the costume. I tried to see if I had 10 across my accounts. I didn't look very hard. I know I do, but I wasn't going to do that. But I do think there is one in the agency right now, and there is, so I can kind of show you guys what the stats for that are. So this is the Golden Helmet costume. This is a costume that already has static stats on it. 20% movement speed, 10% PvE res, 5,000 max HP, 5,000 max MP, and 5,000 HP recovery. This is an okay costume. Not very good, but if you're looking for something that just has stats already and you don't want to think about it, this is definitely a direction you can go. I mean, the 5k max HP, 10% PvE res, and 20% movement speed is not terrible. I do want to point out, too, that, let me close this, that these gold helmet pieces are often sold, too. We'll see if there are any. Yeah, you can see people are selling them as well, and they're not really that expensive. 250 to 400, and 400 is actually kind of high. So I bet for about 2.5 bill you could get this costume, which is not too expensive. Now, the only other static costume that I think is still available is the Sun Wukong costume. Now, this is more of a PvP costume for sure, but we can go over those stats really quick. You got max HP 8,000, damage res 8%, PvP damage res 5%, movement speed 18%, abnormal res 5%, and all attack 18%. Now, this costume drops in Scream Cave. There is a chance to get a permanent one of these in Scream Cave. It is a low chance, but it is droppable. This is more expensive. This is going to be at least a grace, if not more. But yeah, those are the two static costume stat costumes that I think are still available in game. To my knowledge, there aren't any more available except for like the Handbot costume, which came from a old event. I really doubt anyone is selling anyone. It's not the new Handbot costume exchange. It's this pure white one, but it's a permanent one. And you can either get the male or the female, and it's tradable. It's from an old event. It actually has really good stats. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but it has like 400 VIT, which is pretty impressive. But those are no longer farmable. Those are just ones that people are selling, and they are worth a lot. So that doesn't really answer the question of cheap Crest costumes. The unfortunate thing about the static stat costumes is that Dekaron has just gone away from that. They really don't release costumes like that anymore. That used to be how costumes always were, right? So like, I've got like my wizard cursed costume, which is right here. That was purchased in a package. I got this a super long time ago. I mean, we're talking like 8 years or something ridiculous. And then some other ones I have. These aren't all my costumes. Some of them are in my stash, but here's a few. You used to be able to get like basketball, polar bear costume. Used to be the one I used to recommend for everyone to farm. It used to drop in I think it was the horror honeymoon dungeon, but it has PvE damage res, so that was a good way for people to start off, and it wasn't terribly hard to farm. More basketball costumes. We got the Asian costume. I just had the novice one, but this was a good PvP costume if it was fully upgraded. The tuxedo from the wedding dungeon. We have the Sun Wukong one. This one was not one that I farmed. This was one I purchased back when I did PvP a super long time ago, but you used to be able to buy that. We had the premium Santa costume, also a pretty cool costume. But yeah, they don't do this anymore. They don't do it anymore. They moved away from it, and they've moved to crest costumes. So to really answer your question, your answer is really, unless you're going to do the golden helmet one, is to make a crest costume. Now, costumes are actually pretty dang cheap, in that you can just get a fisherman hat costume. These get farmed by people who are doing fishing. You can see here for 750 mil, you can get yourself a crest costume. And then from there, you can start filling out the crests. There are other crest costumes available as well. It just depends on how much you want to spend. Some of them do have set effects, so that's something to think about as well. For example, I had one in here. This new Hawaiian type one pairs up with the surfboard and the water gun wing and has a set effect of like 7% all attack and 9,000 max HP. That's an option as well. But the easiest way to go is to just get yourself that fisherman hat crest costume and then start trying to fill it out. And then from there, you're just going to be filling out crests. Now, I have talked about crests in other videos, but we will briefly go over that again. So what are you looking for with crests? Now, crests can be farmed in various areas in the game. They can also be purchased in the agency. So let's just go through here and I'll talk about each one. All right, so you can have 2 green crests. Now, 2 green crests are going to be, in my opinion, you should be doing Vitality, you should be doing All Attack, or you should be doing probably like Experience, right? If you're trying to level, Experience is a good way to go. All Attack is really strong, right? You can get like 2 of these 8%, that's another 6% All Attack. 140 Vit, it goes up to, I think, 160 or 170 for the green. There's a variety or a range that you can get them in. Now, I know that the Vitality gems drop in the Sacred Claw dungeon. I don't know where the Experience ones drop. They might just be a premium item. I don't believe All Attack drops anywhere. I think that's also just a premium item, but you can purchase them here. But you can go with any of this, really. But my recommendations for damage are either All Attack or Vit, XP if you're trying to level. You could also go Utility if you want some movement speed, or you could go HP recovery. There's a lot of options. But again, damage, you definitely want either All Attack or Vit. If you're trying to level, you should be using XP crests. Blue is a defensive crest. So for this, if you're doing PvE, you want PvE damage res. So like, for example, here, there's a 9% one. I know that PvE damage res crests can drop in the party dungeon in Elenome's Sanctum. I'm trying to think of the name of that dungeon, but it's the party dungeon in Elenome's Sanctum. Guardian Hitter drops them. I've gotten them before. It's not a super high drop rate, but they do drop there, or you can purchase them from other players. Obviously, if you're going PvP, you're probably going to want PvP damage res or damage decrease resistance, which are premium items that don't drop in dungeons, to my knowledge. There are other options as well, but those are the 2 main ones that you're going to be looking for. I have, in the past, when I couldn't get my hands on PvE damage res, I've done block resistance. That is also an option. And then all elemental resistance is also not a terrible option, if you're trying to get something else. Melee damage resistance is also good. I've used that before as well. There's just a couple different options. Okay, purple is going to be an attack crest. A couple options here. You're going to want to focus on whatever your class is and probably grab either magic attack, long range attack, or close range attack, the highest percent you can get. There are also all attacks that would work just as well. And then on top of that, you could also use a DK attack crest if you're going to be using this in the DK server. Those are kind of your options there. Now, I believe Boz drops these magic attack, long range attack, and close range attack crests. I would have to double check that, but that's where they used to drop. At least that's where I think they still drop. If not, you can find them here. I don't think they have a super high drop rate again, but I know I've farmed them there in the past. Orange, again, is likely going to be a damage crest for you, and you're going to want to use whatever your type is. Again, long range, close range, or magic. Or there's also all attack. That is also an option. And then you could also use, there are some defensive ones as well. For example, you could do another 15% PvP damage res. If this is a PvP costume, you might want like an 18% PvP damage bonus crest. You could go more Vit. Generally, I just go for all attack. So if you want to see what my PvE costume looks like, For example, I have 2 Vitality crests, I have 2 PvE crests, and then I have 2 damage crests, right? So mine is just full damage and then full PvE resistance. Obviously, depending on what you want, you could switch things around. I've been focusing on leveling a little bit more recently. So, like, for example, I might want to change my Vitality crests to Experience crests, or at least get them to, like, a higher Vitality roll, like a 140 or a 160. Or if I can find ways to max out my Vit in different ways, I would be looking at all attack. But there are some options there. But yeah, that kind of covers the whole costume tips that I think can help you guys. Again, I do apologize. I don't believe there are any static costumes that are obtainable in game now beyond the Golden Helmet costume and the Sun Wukong costume. Other than purchasing the Handbot costume from someone. Again, though, the permanent one that actually has the static stats is pretty rare and very expensive, and you're not going to find that for a cheap price. If there are any other in-game that you guys are aware of, you can leave them in the comments, but those are all the ones that I'm aware of. Other than that, you're just going to have to go with your Crest costume. That's kind of where the game has gone. Again, the Fisherman Hat costume is not very expensive. I recommend just getting that. That's a really easy Crest costume. They also give them away with events sometimes. I think you also might get one in your level up package now. I'm not sure. But minimally, you could get the Fisherman one, and then you could start farming/purchasing the other crests for your costume, and that is definitely going to be the cheapest way to do it. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope I answered the question. If you have a video that you want to see in the future, make sure you're subscribed. Leave it in the comments, and if it gets the most upvotes, that'll be the next video that I work on. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and until next time, take care. Peace.